Hello and welcome to the Making Musical Quantum Leaps podcast, where we're here to support you in taking your singing skills to the next level. I'm your host, Coach Worship, and I'm thrilled to have my co-host, Jamie, with me.
In this podcast, we'll take you on a 30-day podcast marathon, teaching you everything you need to know about diction for singers. Diction is the art of pronouncing words clearly and expressively, using your voice parts to make sound and speech.
Diction is essential for singers as it helps you share your message, emotions, and style with your audience. Each day, we will explore a different topic related to diction, such as vowels, consonants, syllables, stress, intonation, accent, dialect, and more. We will also give you practical tips and exercises to improve your diction and singing performance.
By the end of this podcast marathon, you will have a better understanding of how your voice works and how to use it effectively. So join us on this exciting journey of learning and singing. You can subscribe to our podcast on Spotify or on any other listening platforms. You can also follow us on Twitter at the Making Musical Quantum Leaps podcast, or email us at joinedenSchoolofSounds@gmail.com if you have any questions or feedback. Let's meet Simi Harmony. Oladehinde Similoluwa David, popularly known as Simi Harmony, is a vocal coach who has helped thousands of singers discover the true beauty that lies in their voices and enable them explore its mind-blowing potentials. The brain behind Simi Harmony Academy, a music academy that focuses on training and polishing singers who become the next stars. His series of vocal trainings has been a huge blessing to thousands of people who participate in every edition. An addicted lover of God, handsome, intelligent chap, a writer, and a friend of our chief coach, he'll be teaching vocal baby steps, how to learn, relearn, and unlearn.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you might be listening to this. I am Simi Harmony and I'm your vocal coach for today. So we're going to be looking at a particular topic that interests me so much: how to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And yes, of course, we are looking at the aspect of singing and music generally. Now, one thing I want you to understand, even before I go into the details, is the fact that singing is 90% psychological. Singing is 90% psychological and 10% practical, meaning that a large chunk of what you know actually does so much to your singing. It affects your singing, and that is why what you know about singing actually affects the way you sing. What you stored, the information that you have gotten and you have stored, maybe from your environment or from your background or from people or due to exposure or due to so many things, due to teachings too. These things are the things that actually form what you know and what you think about music. And what you think about music actually affects the way you sing. And that is why you notice that in this part of the world, the way we sing, there is a common way we actually sing, different from the way people that are abroad in a different country, different from the way they sing. Why? Because our mentality towards singing actually shapes us, shapes the way we sing, shapes everything about our singing. So do you understand that? Yes. So singing is first what? Psychological. So if you have now understand that singing is first psychological, then it will now drive you to the aspect of what it means to actually learn, unlearn, and relearn. And that is what we are going to be looking at in this particular topic. So now let's start with learning. That's the first thing I want us to actually look at. Now the thing about learning is that whether you like it or not, whether you agree with me or not, you've actually been learning something about singing, either passively or actively. Yes, you've actually been learning something about singing, either passively or actively. In as much as you are exposed to different things happening, maybe in the country, you're exposed to your environment, you're exposed to people. Yes, you're exposed to people, you're exposed to situation, you will always continue to learn. You always want to continue to learn something, either passively or actively. And this is a very, very important reason why you have to be able to filter what you actually learn. Because while learning, either passively or actively, you might be learning the wrong things and you don't even know. Yes, even in this part of the world, there are so many misconceptions, so many things that we have taken in, we have learned, and they don't seem to be actually true. They are not the truth when it comes to singing actually. Let me give you an example. Now, many of us actually grew up with the mindset that singing is for some set of persons. Yes, in fact, me as a vocal coach, it took me a while before I was able to unlearn some of these ideologies. Yes, some of these ideologies. And is that statement correct? No, it is not necessarily true. Singing is not just for some set of persons. I say that some people are like, singing is not for me. I cannot sing, I cannot do this. They just believe that that area is not for them. But it is not necessarily true. Singing is not just a talent, it's an ability. Ability is like a gift that is given to God and from God to us. So anybody can sing, anybody can actually sing. Although there are some persons that singing is actually one of the things that they came to actually do on earth. You get like tied to their purpose. You get, and so the Creator might actually bless them with an abundance of that talent of singing. But on a normal note, singing is for everybody. It's just like an ability, just like you can learn how to drive. Everybody has the inherent ability to actually drive, but not until we learn it before we can be able to explore and deploy the potentials of being a driver. That's the same way. So these are many more, and so many misconceptions that some are good that we learned, some things are bad that we actually also learned. So now we've taken in the good and the bad and the ugly, just like one of my friends will say. We've taken in the good, the bad, and the ugly. So now that leads me to the next phase, which is unlearning. Now, the problem now with most people is that they don't unlearn. They don't unlearn because, trust me, now that you've taken in the good, bad, and the ugly, there are so many things that you need to filter out. Yes, because you've learned so many things passively and actively. So many things that you need to filter out. And how do you filter out? By knowing the truth, the fact about that particular thing. Yes. Now, to some people, what has actually put a peg to becoming that kind of singer that they really want to? What has actually put a peg, a limit to exploring and becoming that kind of singer that they want to become is all in their head. It's all in their head. So you have to unlearn so many things. Unlearn so many things. Now, one way to actually unlearn is to begin to question the particular things that you've learned and a desire to actually know the truth, the real facts behind some of the things that you know and you have come to believe. Yes, unlearning is actually a process that takes time. And the reason why it takes time is because you have to get rid of all those old informations, those innocent yet harming information that continues to limit you and limit your singing. Do you understand? So you have to first get rid of them first. Then you begin to form new habits. How do you form new habits? By taking in new information. Now, you see some people, when they sing, you'll be like, wow, you have a beautiful voice, you can sing so well. But the end of their own conclusion is, I cannot sing. That's actually a bad thing, actually. So many singers, they don't believe that they have a beautiful voice. Even when they get beautiful compliments from people, they always think that, no, these guys are flattering me, these guys are whining me. These and many more are some of the things that we have to actually unlearn. Yes, when it comes to singing, there are some singing problems that actually stemmed out of some of the things that we actually learned that were not right. Now, you see some people, when they want to hit high notes, for example, they believe that they have to shout to hit high notes, or they have to look at the ceiling. Actually, when I was young, I did that a lot of times. Like, I believe that to hit high notes, those high notes, I have to reach for the ceiling. I have to look up, but that is not actually the real fact. That is not actually the truth behind hitting high notes. So I had to unlearn it. And it's very, very important, because if you don't unlearn some things, you continue to believe it, and then you will not be able to progress. So learning, unlearning, and so it does not stop there. Actually, then there's the last phase called the relearning process. Now I want you to understand that today's wisdom is tomorrow's mediocrity. Let me say it again. Today's wisdom is tomorrow's mediocrity, meaning that what you know today isn't sufficient for what you will need to know for the future. And that's why you have to keep relearning. What you learned today might not be so tomorrow. That's the same thing with singing. In fact, singing is one of the aspects of influence that actually evolves every time. You notice that singing was not the way it was like some 5 years ago. Yes, it was actually different from what it is now. And if you can actually study, you see the trend in music, you see the trend in singing. So it's very, very important that you continue to relearn some of the things that you've learned, which are now the true and the right facts. So again, I need you to understand that for you to be able to become a better singer and to be able to improve in your singing, it all boils down to your singing habits. So some of us here, we need to learn singing habits. We need to unlearn some singing habits that we have learned, and then we need to relearn some singing habits in the correct and the proper way. So pay attention to what you learn. Then further unlearn some of the things that you need to, some of the things that are not necessarily true, and then relearn some of the good things that you've believed, and some of this new set of information that you have come towards, worked and verified, and you've seen that they're actually correct. So this is where we're going to stop for tonight, and I'll see you next time.
And that brings us to the end of day 22. Every time I think about the fact that we're going to end soon, brings tears to my eyes. Like, it hits me so hard enough to give me malaria. But everything that has a beginning has to have an end, and every good thing has a beginning. Take, for example, the Making Musical Quantum podcast, which is a subsidiary of Eden School of Sounds. The podcast and the vocal school started at around the same period, exactly in the month of November, 3 years ago. So yes, we are 3! Yes, we are 3 years already. I know it's small, but it's a big achievement. We've been able to achieve a whole lot of things. The Eden School of Sounds is a vocal institution dedicated to helping passionate singers develop musically to enhance their vocal growth and everything that has to do with their voices, with amazing and dedicated coaches that actually love their students so much, and pour everything they have into the lives of their students. Yep. And the Making Musical Quantum podcast, as you know, you're listening to, is a platform where coaches and singers connect, where we give tips and advices and stories and interviews with musical people and anything that can help you and all that kind of thing. Yes. So I, for example, am a student of Eden School of Sounds. I won't go into details, but I started with Eden School of Sounds, and I actually did see progress in my singing journey. I didn't just take what I learned and left it as a potential. I put it into use. So that's one thing. You have to put your potential into use. If not, it will just remain as a potential. Put it so it can turn to kinetic energy. I'm not a scientist, I don't even know what I just said, but don't just leave it as potential. Just imagine, with the potential you have, you're already doing this. How much more would you be, or how much better would you be if you put that potential energy to use? Trust me, you'll be good. And we also want to celebrate our 3 years anniversary on the 30th of November. And trust me, we're planning something, even though we're not sure how it's gonna go, but we're planning something. And yes, 30th of November, mark the date. 30th of November will be a blast here on Making Musical Quantum Leaps podcast. And when we say something will be a blast, we don't fail at all. We don't fail. So yes, our song for today is I'll Be There by Walk of the Earth. And our quote for the day is The Only Truth is Music by Jack Kerouac. Don't mind what I just said, but by Jack somebody. The only truth is music. If you've not followed us on Spotify or on whatever listening platform you use, I do not know what you're waiting for. I don't know. And if you don't like the episodes, I also don't know what you're waiting for. As you listen, do them side by side, make you follow each other. Okay, you can connect to us on Twitter at the Making Musical Quantum Leaps podcast, or you could send us an email at joinedenscholofsounds@gmail.com. And from Coach Worship and everybody at MMQR Podcast, including myself, it's bye. We'll catch you tomorrow.